Hello, listeners. Welcome to KORC's News, Music, and Civics show. I am Wendy Byrne, and this is the Corvallis Civics Cafe. What is on the menu today? Meeting reviews, meeting previews, and some food for thought. Have a seat and let's get to it. I always intend to catch you up on the most recent city meetings, but this past week presented challenges. For example, on February 23rd, while the Climate Action Advisory Board had their monthly meeting, I was busy preparing for the final meeting of the Safe Streets and Roads for All Task Force, which was also meeting on February 23rd. I am a member of that task force, and as such, had nearly 700 pages of documents in the electronic packet to review. Fortunately, I can catch up on the work of the Climate Action Advisory Board via the recording of that meeting, but I have bad news for folks who were hoping to watch the recording of the Safe Streets and Roads for All Task Force meeting. Due to technical problems, there is no recording of that meeting. Minutes will be published as they are for all city-related meetings, but it can take 2 to 3 weeks for those minutes to arrive in the city archives. Because I am a task force member, I can tell you that the consultants from DKS Associates reviewed the draft of the Transportation Safety Action Plan, and the task force members gave our feedback. City staff and the consultants agreed to incorporate task force member feedback into the draft, and for next steps, it will be presented to the City Council at their work session on March 19th. Feedback from the City Council will be incorporated as needed into the Transportation Safety Action Plan, which is due to return for a final vote of approval at a City Council business meeting on April 20th. I feel comfortable telling you that the members of the task force voted unanimously to support the report, with the suggested edits, and I look forward to seeing the conclusion of this project in April, as it should help our local transportation system become safer for all roadway users. On Tuesday, February 24th, the meeting of the Environment and Safety Subcommittee of the Downtown Vitality Strategy Task Force and the meeting of the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Board were both canceled. Phase 2 of the Charter Review Task Force held their meeting on Wednesday the 25th, which I was able to watch via the recording at vimeo.com/City of Corvallis. The primary topic of discussion at the Charter Review Task Force meeting was preparing for their work session with the City Council on March 19th. At that work session, the task force will share their proposal for 2 ballot measures for this November. Ballot Measure 1 will suggest changing from 9 wards and 9 City Council members to 7 wards with 7 City Council members. Ballot Measure 2 will change City Council term lengths to 4 years and set up staggered terms such that all 7 members of the City Council would never turn over during the same election year. In addition, Ballot Measure 2 will include a term limit of 12 years. Remember, these 2 ballot measures, if approved by the full City Council, will come to we the people in November of this year. During community comments, a community member gave the task force good feedback regarding how they decide to package the ballot measures. Have a listen.
I have a bit of an issue with the idea of packaging the term lengths and the term issues together. I understand the sentiment you've expressed about worry that the voters might not like one, so sweetening the pill by packaging it with the other. From my perspective, it doesn't feel like they're not implementable separately. It feels like they're 2 separate issues. And so I guess my concern is, why should the voters have to choose all or nothing on 2 different issues? And basically, there are 3 different scenarios. One is that voters support both of them, and so it doesn't matter how you package it anyways. One is that, as you identify, they don't support one, and maybe they vote no on the thing they do want just because they don't want this. That feels like a bad outcome. And then the scenario that is the reason for packaging them together, voters don't want one of them, but they do want the other, so they vote yes on the thing they don't want. That doesn't feel is that what you guys actually want? You want a government that the people didn't really want? The idea that the voters might be resistant to one just means there's a lot of work to do on your end, laying out the problem, laying out why this would be a better government that the people should want. That's my 2 cents.
If this talk about charter revision rings a bell, you will remember that in May we will also be voting on charter changes that have already been approved by the City Council and were addressed by Phase 1 of the Charter Review Task Force. If you are a subscriber to the City of Corvallis electronic newsletter, you might have noticed the link within that newsletter to more information about the 4 ballot measures the City Council has referred to the May 2026 ballot. Our city charter is really getting a glow-up this year. I hope some listeners had the time to attend the February 26th edition of Know Your City, which was hosted by the League of Women Voters Corvallis and the City of Corvallis. Per the City and the League of Women Voter websites, the goal of the event was to, quote, encourage Corvallis community members to think about what they want for the future of downtown and to get involved in making it happen, unquote. Representatives from the city's Downtown Vitality Strategy Task Force were at the event to continue their efforts at community outreach. Did you go? I would appreciate your feedback on the event. If you are feeling chatty, drop me an email at wendy@korcfm.com. In other civics-related items from last week, listeners might remember that on the February 22nd program, I mentioned the upcoming annexation and zone changes for the Corvallis Airport and Industrial Park. Get this. The Corvallis Planning Division has issued the pre-notification for the land use application that was submitted by Chris Jacobs of the city's Economic Development Office. This application seeks approval to annex the 1,518-acre site, which is composed of 6 tax lots of city-owned property containing the Corvallis Airport and Industrial Park. The process also seeks to rezone the properties from current Benton County zoning designations to City Industrial Zone designations. Hoo-wee! 1,518 acres will change from county to city industrial zoning. I wonder what will happen on that land. More information about next steps in this application process can be found on the city website or by connecting with the case manager, Senior Planner Sarah Johnson, via the City of Corvallis Planning Division. As of March 1st, applications will be open for 2 popular community grant programs. Empowerment Grants and Green Grants offer 2 separate funding opportunities for community projects in Corvallis. The Empowerment Grant Program provides small cash grants to fund projects and initiatives that improve neighborhoods and forge partnerships to address community issues. Examples of past projects include landscape improvements, neighborhood social events, public art installations, education programs, and training services. The Green Grant Program offers funding for community projects that move the dial on climate change and promote the actions of the Corvallis Climate Action Plan. More information on the 2 programs and the online application can be found on the city webpage by going to corvallisoregon.gov, where the links are located in the Spotlight section of the city's homepage.
Also wanted to let people know that the Green Grant applications are going to be live on March 1st. So if you know somebody who wants to apply for a Green Grant, those applications open up on March 1st. If you go out to the city website and go to the Apply for a Green Grant page now, there are materials that talk about the upcoming grant cycle. And then I also want to plug that if you know somebody who has a good idea for the project, or maybe it doesn't fall under the umbrella of climate action, the empowerment grants will be opening up under the same term.
What city meetings are on the horizon? On March 2nd, the City Council will hold an executive session, followed by a regular City Council meeting. Items of interest from the agenda include 2 public hearings. One is about the annexation of land on the east side of Brooklane Drive near Knollbrook Drive. The applicant wishes to annex 14 lots along what will be called Stratton Way, which is off of Brooklane Drive. All but one of these lots were originally platted in 1959 as part of what was then called the Stratton Addition. Each of the lots are vacant, and Stratton Way is currently an unimproved road under Benton County jurisdiction. Annexing these lots will allow at least some of the originally platted 14 parcels to be developed for housing, as a new subdivision must comply with current, not 1959, Land Development Code requirements, including the natural features protections. The City Council will also hold a hearing on the multiple unit property tax exemption program. Apparently, city staff recently discovered that adoption of the program required a public hearing to satisfy state laws. The hearing on March 2nd will correct a procedural error, as this hearing should have occurred when the multiple unit property tax exemption program was established back in 2023. Side dish: if this hearing ended with a no vote, the multiple unit property tax exemption that was granted to the Gordon Hotel and Residences would be revoked, and it would jeopardize several projects that are waiting in the wings to apply for their multiple unit property tax exemptions. I don't think that is going to happen, but this procedural error needs correction. For listeners who are concerned about our local economy, I'd like to point out one item titled Visit Corvallis Quarterly Report that is unfortunately buried in the consent agenda of the City Council electronic record for the upcoming meeting, and thus only available to be seen if you dig into the electronic packet. If you do, you will read some alarming information about hotel occupancy in our city. From the report, quote, lodging performance across Corvallis and Benton County showed flat to declining demand. As of December, the average hotel-motel occupancy rate declined to 49.8% for the calendar year of 2025. Without growing demand alongside new hotel inventory, Corvallis risks oversaturation, which could ultimately reduce transient lodging tax revenue for the city. Unquote. Somehow, developers are still building hotels in Corvallis. What is with that? What do they know that we don't know? The Downtown Vitality Strategy Task Force will hold an all-task force meeting on March 3rd at 4 p.m. The electronic packet for the meeting is packed with information, including results from stakeholder and community meetings, public input via the city's online comment portal for the task force, and survey results about how people engage with downtown and how people prioritized actions for downtown. My understanding is that the task force plans to continue their community engagement through March and April, and I'm curious as to why they have released their survey results now, when they have 2 additional months of input to gather. Perhaps I will learn the rationale at their meeting this week. The Community Police Review Advisory Board meets at 3 p.m. on March 4th. Also, on March 4th, there is a Planning Commission meeting. This Planning Commission meeting gets special mention because it will have an in-person option for the first time since COVID. The meeting starts at 6:30 p.m. If you want to attend in person, they will meet at the Madison Avenue Meeting Room at 500 Southwest Madison Avenue, across from City Hall in downtown. On March 5th, the City Council work session starts at 4 p.m. The agenda includes a discussion of cost recovery for land use application fees for historic reviews, an update on the wastewater master plan, and an update on the City Council strategic plan. To be honest, listeners, over a nearly sleepless night, I spent more than 30 minutes trying to figure out how to best explain the items in the packet for the section titled Strategic Plan Update. I find I am not equal to the task. Considering the international events of February 28th, 2026, on top of the national events of this week, I think my brain has hit its limit. And who can blame me? Perhaps after some sleep, and after the work session on Thursday, I will better be able to explain the materials to you. Tune in next week to find out. Thanks for joining me at the Corvallis Civics Cafe. I hope the show serves you useful information about local civics and inspires you to engage with our city. If you have feedback for me, send me an email at wendy@korcfm.com. Remember, it still matters to focus on what is local. Perhaps it matters even more right now. Until next time, I'm Wendy Byrne for KORC.
But also, I do like the idea of doing it because we should treat our voters like adults, and if we hand some great things and not package a bitter pill and a sweet pill together, we should probably do that.